Hey guys, welcome to this video. Today I just wanted to take you through the process of creating a brand pattern. So on the screen, this is a logo that I created already before I had the idea to record for a kind of a made-up candle company that makes organic candles from coconut oil. And they kind of wanted a bit more of a connection to their Mexican heritage from that history in Puebla and everything. The name of their candle is actually a play on the tile called Talaveras. So velas in Spanish is actually candle. So this is the logo that we're kind of working on, and I will switch over to this video that I pre-recorded of my process just to explain what I did. Okay. So let's get that out of the way here. So I started a new Illustrator document and then started to bring in some of the inspiration images that I'd saved on a secret Pinterest board. And I knew that I kind of wanted to go with this, this tile effect, this tile look to it. And so a lot of the pieces that I saved had that kind of a mixture. So I just put them on their own artboard so that I can kind of see them a little bit better. And then what I did, like what I'm doing right here, is I started to go through and number the different types of patterns. And I kind of did this because of the randomness of it. I wanted to make sure I was achieving that same kind of randomness. So, and I also wanted to know how many different designs that I was going to be making in total. So I started with this kind of image and placing the numbers on them. Just trying to kind of look for, as many of the different patterns as this image as I could. And I mean, it was an okay pattern to work with, but then I switched over to this other one just because there was a way more space and it was easier for me to see how I could see like this repeat pattern on I guess more of them. So I did the same thing as I did with the other one. I just didn't create the outlines. I just numbered the different designs of the tiles. Again, this is just for me to kind of figure out how many of the different tile designs that I'm going to be making. So here I am, I've kind of reached my end and I'm like, okay, well, technically there was I think there was a 12th pattern that I couldn't look for, but I was like, you know what, good enough. I'm just going to work with that kind of square grid. So that was about 11 images. So I kind of created these squares on different squares for 11 different designs on an artboard. And then I went into some old files that I had started with to start playing with some designs. So this is the actual like mark of the icon mark of the brand Talavelas, but without the color obviously. And just playing with some of maybe the aspects in the logo itself, just trying to fill in some of the space in the corners there. Making sure it's all aligned and to the square. And I think what I did was I pulled in there were some previous logo concepts that I didn't end up going with, but I kept them. I just keep everything on my file because I knew that I might need them for an idea, and so this is where they're coming into play a little bit. Just playing with the width and resizing some of these original ideas that I had. I know that when I was creating this, just looking at how the tile pattern is on that bathroom, I wanted to make sure there was a mix of tiles that had a lot of white space and tiles that were more of the colored pattern than the white part of it, because I didn't plan on doing this with multiple colors. I mean, right now I'm just doing it in black and white, and if I recolor them, I think I'm just going to use the one color, the one brand color or something like that, or even a different color. I don't really know. I haven't thought that much through. So on this tile, I took a previous design and then I just had to kind of cut off the edges so that I just had this circle effect. So ideally, if you were just to use that tile, then it would create a full circle in the corners. Again, going back to the actual logo and taking some elements from it, but just modifying it slightly. And then for this pattern, I kind of created this, this flower without even realizing it. So I know the hardest part for me doing this was trying to imagine what these tiles were gonna look like. You know, if they were just a tile on its own and somebody was repeating it like most people do, what it was gonna look like. I like my little circle idea, but I think there was something I was just like, oh, let's just try out something else. Do I really like, how much do I really like that circle around it? You know, and then I wasn't really kind of liking the size of those little, I guess those rays or whatever you want to call them. So just experimenting with the sizes and the placement of it, and then in a bit you'll see me also experimenting with the stroke on it, just to make all of these kind of line widths a little bit more cohesive between all of the different styles of the tile designs that I created. And just trying to add some variation to some of these logo shapes and everything like that. So it became harder to create different tiles as I started to get to the end. So just the first few are like, okay, there's enough variation, and then after a while it was like, okay, now how do I change this up but still make it a little bit, you know, cohesive to the brand. So for this one I was like, I wasn't really sure if I just like this, I don't know, this leaf petal pattern by itself, so I just added a few kind of corner elements to it just to change it up. And then for this one here, I wasn't really liking how the middle was looking as these lines intersected. So I added this circle just to make it look a little bit better because it was really bugging me. And here I am just kind of trying to repeat as many of the elements as I could from the actual, like a lot of these are from the actual logo. Now here I am, like I said before, just kind of adjusting the stroke on some of these line elements so they kind of look a little bit so there wasn't too many thick lines and then super thin lines. And again, repeating one of the elements from the logo mark itself. So I tried resizing this part on my own, then I was like, oh, I wanted to make it very even. So then I went through and just resized it and then just changed all of the stroke widths on them. And created a clipping mask so that you could kind of see a little bit better how it was gonna turn out. So final 2.5, because I still have that one tile that's not quite complete because I took out the center of it. I spent a lot of time doing just these little adjustments on these little petals. So how do I like it? How do I like it? Do I, rotate it more, rotate it less? Do I increase the spacing and be with the middle one? And so finally I found something that I was like, I was okay with. So and again, just pulling in some of these repeat elements from some other images. Because as you can see, I don't know, I haven't stopped this enough to show the original piece, but there's a lot of like elements that repeat, either, you got the diamond shape repeating, you've got this flower pattern. So I wanted to kind of achieve a similar result with this pattern, I guess with these tiles, because I haven't quite made the pattern yet. So here I am looking on one of my original files, just kind of looking for some inspiration for these last tile things that I have to do. So the last one was the hardest one, because by then I was like, okay, so now I've used all my ideas and now what? I guess I could have left that tile the way it is, but I felt like it was missing something, so I went back to those four corner Alright, and so I pretty much finished these individual tile pieces. and just knowing that I was kind of numbered like 1 to 5 on the first row, 6 to 10 on the second row, and then the 11th one by itself on the bottom. So just doing some last minute tweaks here, saving it. I'm really bad for not saving my work and then having my computer shut down on me when I forget that it's not plugged in and losing everything. Alright, so now there's the part where I get to piece all of these little tiles together to create a pattern. And for this, I was just following the number system that was on that kind of that shower image, just so that I could get the randomness of it started. Yeah, I was having issues with this tile. I don't know if it's because of it's the only one with a clipping mask on it, but it was giving me some issues. Yeah, so at this part I kind of realized, well, I should probably take out, like, the square outline was just for me to see how it would be as a tile within a square, but I didn't really want to keep it when I started to put it all together. So I had to go through and get rid of, I didn't delete them, I just made it so the stripe was transparent on a lot of those outlines. And then going through the tedious work of making sure everything was aligned vertically and then horizontally as well. And then finishing off the numbers. I don't really know if there was an easier way to do this. I guess I could have created an actual grid for it, but sometimes, I don't know. I don't usually use grids that often. Okay, so this is where I had some issues. So I just made a kind of a copy of it and then resized it to a size that I thought would make a good pattern. But as you can see, when I pulled it into my pattern swatch, it didn't actually save over the entire pattern. It just was saving this one image the whole time. So I tried this a few times, trying to figure out what on earth am I doing wrong here. I don't know how, obviously you can see there's at least 4 attempts right there of me trying to make this pattern. So, kept trying, I thought maybe expanding the shape. I thought maybe the issue was with that clipping mask tile. So I'm like, okay, well let's, unclip it and use the shape builder just to get rid of the extra lines and see if that's gonna help me out. So that's what I'm doing right now, is just kind of fixing that one tile pattern that had the clipping mask on it, just to see if, is that my issue with this? Because it was driving me nuts, because normally I don't have any issues. I just take my pattern, drag it over, and it gets added as a pattern swatch, but it wasn't working for me. So I went into Google. I'm like, what is going on? How come I can't save this swatch as a pattern swatch in Illustrator? So here was my solution number 1, which was to rasterize that whole tile pattern that I had created. When I thought of the solution, I actually decided to take the time to go back in and adjust the bottom row, because when I was looking at it again, I didn't really like how some of the tiles were being repeated with all the rest of them. So I just kind of changed it up really quickly, and then I took a copy of it and changed the size, took note of the size that I had changed it to took another copy of that one and then went to Object and Rasterize. And then I just hit OK. I kept all the settings the same. And so when that finished processing, I was able to take that rasterized image, add it to my swatches panel, and it saved it as a pattern. So now I just, to edit the pattern, I just double clicked on it. I changed the width to that size that I had written down before. And then it turned it into more of a seamless pattern, and then just changed the name to something that made a little bit more sense. So that is what the tile pattern, that seamless pattern, ended up looking like. Now when I adjust the size of the shape, I just click on that tile again, and then it keeps the sizing of the pattern that I originally made. Now the second solution that I came up with to fix this problem was to flatten the transparency. So for this one, as you can see, I already recolored my tiles to the brand color, but I basically took that one rectangle with all the tiles in them. I went up to Object and then Flatten Transparency, which is below the Rasterize option. I kept most of the settings the same. I just checked off that Convert All Strokes to Outlines option, and then hit the OK button, and then just followed the same steps as before with the adding it to the swatch panel, and then double clicking to make sure the size was the same, and then renaming it as a pattern name that made sense for the brand. And that was it. So in the next video, I'm actually going to be taking this pattern that I've created and using it to create some kind of packaging for this candle brand. I'm actually thinking I might work on a gift bag and the box for the candles. I might do the labels and stuff in my own time and just have it for my portfolio project in the end, but I think that is what I'm going to do in next week's video. So I will see you then, and thank you for watching.